Welcome to the Agent Upgrade Podcast with your hosts Jasmine Krnjetin and Alan Corey, where we learn the strategies of top producing real estate agents so you have the tools to upgrade your own real estate career.
Hey guys, today I have my favorite guest on the podcast. We're going to get to go deep and interview the co-host, Jasmine Krnjetin of Jasmine Team. Jasmine, how excited are you that I get to pick your brain?
I'm so excited. I love talking about myself, so I'm not in my comfort zone right now.
I know you're being sarcastic, but I do think it's worthy for people to hear your awesome story. I find it very inspiring, and I think others will really kind of connect with you as well as you share your story. So thank you for opening up today. I know it is out of your comfort zone, but I'll go easy on you. I won't put you on the hot seat. We just want to learn more about you, Jasmine.
Sounds good. Let's do this thing.
Okay, so if you don't know, Jasmine is the powerhouse leader of Jasmine Team, which is a mortgage lender for Waterstone Mortgage, which is licensed in 48 states to do mortgages. Every single state, but New York and Hawaii. Do I have that correct?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so I want to hear this origin story about how you became one of the top women mortgage originators, and you just won an award last week, Most Innovative Woman. What was the award that you won?
Yeah, I think it was Women of Inspiration.
Okay.
Yes.
So who issued this award?
It's like a national. Actually, I should probably look that up. Hold on one second.
So this is the type of person Jasmine is. She wins these national awards, and she doesn't even tell anyone. Not bothered by it. It takes her husband Jeff to post it on Facebook, and then I learn about these things like a week later. But congratulations!
Thank you.
Well. Yes.
Thank you. I think I think that of all the recognitions that I have gotten over the years, I think that one is the one that I like the most, because if there is anything that I love doing is inspiring people. So that one is like, okay, I really like this little thing. This was fun. Good.
Yeah, it's not just
I'm on the right track. Right.
It is, yeah, and within Waterstone Bank, which is in 48 states, you're one of the top mortgage originators there as well.
Yes. There is this one guy that's always ahead of me, but it's okay. There's always 2022. Yeah. We'll take him out.
so you're number two. She won't say it. She's number two nationwide in terms of production, and she's optimistic to take him down. That's what I love about you. You're always eager and working harder and pushing yourself. So how did you come about? How in terms of the mortgage side of things and basically meeting a bunch of real estate agents, making their lives easier? Because I know you have an origin story before that. You're born in maybe tell about Serbia. So tell us a little bit about your growing up.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Serbia, and I moved around in Europe a good bit growing up, and I finished school in Sweden, and then I moved to United States.
Okay, wait. So you skipped over this amazing journey. You just I get bits and pieces here and there. So you grew up in Serbia. When did you move out of Serbia?
I guess it was in the late 80s, early 90s. And that's when I moved. I basically went to a boarding school in Sweden, and so that's where I did that. That's where I did the equivalent of your high school here in the United States. So it was a tough time because early 90s were really, really hard in Yugoslavia. There was a civil war going on. Things were really shaky. And so my parents basically did everything they could to get me out of the country. And so I didn't actually see my father for a really long time. I think it was maybe like 12 years where I went not seeing my dad until things calmed down. And so when I finished school, in Sweden, the option was, either I go back home to Serbia, which my dad was really, really adamant about me not coming back, because he said that, at that time, all the kids my age were either eternally in school, because schooling is free. So they were getting a master's and a second master's and a PhD and just, continually in school, or they were on drugs, because there was really, really very few opportunities for kids my age, to really make anything of themselves, because, post-war, it takes a country 50 years to recover after a civil war. And so I actually saw an ad in the newspaper that there was kind of like in the classifieds, if you will, that there was an attorney in California that said, hey, did you know that this year United States is giving away 5,000 visas? And if you send me $300, I'll hook you up with a visa. And, I was like 16 and I was like, well, I'm not going back home. I'm not staying in Sweden. Sweden was way too cold. Like, we lived around Stockholm. Dude, it's gray and cold and winter. And I'm like, growing up in the Mediterranean climate, I was not happy. So Sweden was not an option. And then, so I just, I'm always pretty naive and gullible. And I just went for it. I sent him, my little $300, and lo and behold, 3 months later, I got a visa to United States.
Sounds like a scam. Yeah.
I know, right? It does. Looking at it now, I was like, what was I thinking? That was a lot of money. But, I was like, hey, it's a shot at a better life. And, I could not have been more excited. So I grabbed onto it, and I packed up my stuff and I left, and I ended up in Atlanta, and I've actually lived here the entire time since. Oh,
wow. So I still want to rewind a little bit. So when I hear that, okay, there's a civil war breaking out in Serbia, and you go off to boarding school, I'm like, oh, you must come from a wealthy family in Serbia.
No, it was no such thing. No, it was, there was actually, there was actually a woman who in Sweden, who I'm so grateful to. She actually paid for just about all of my schooling in Sweden. And when I graduated, she gave me this really beautiful gold ring that I still keep at my desk every single day. I know exactly where it is always. Yeah. And she gave it to me. She was so proud of me, and I could not have been more grateful to her to have paid for my school. And and just, I was just like a little girl, out in the world. And she said, hey, I'm gonna take this kid, and I'm gonna sponsor her, and I'm gonna take care of her schooling. So she did.
So you're a refugee, basically status, to get to Sweden, boarding school, no access to your family for 4 years because there's a civil war. They don't want you to come back because it's unsafe, and they want what's best for you. So you're in Sweden for 4 years. Is that right? By yourself?
Yeah. My mom used to kind of travel back and forth. Eventually my sister also moved to Sweden. So it's kind of always been our story. Like, I'm always the first one, one in, and then I drag my mom into it. I drag my sister into it. Yeah. So that's exactly how that went.
And then, so upon graduation, you got this attorney you found in the newspaper for $300 to get you a visa. What age were you then?
I'm 16.
Okay. So you're 16, you moved by yourself to America?
Yep. I came to Atlanta all by myself, and it was interesting. I rented a room, for $200 a month in like a really old house. There was no AC. It was, the bathroom was shared like with, I don't know, there was like 5-6 other people living in the house. And there was no kitchen, interestingly enough. Yeah, there was no kitchen. So I kind of had my own, I set up my own little, I got a little table, I got a burner. I was really excited when I got my burner because I could cook pasta. And I also came, coming from Sweden, Atlanta is so freaking hot. Oh, Atlanta is so hot. Yeah. Like I came around October, so it wasn't like the hottest month of the year, but good Lord, it took me weeks to acclimate, to be able to breathe. The air is so humid here. Right. So I was literally dying.
But you are on your, you get your visa and you're like, oh, I'm going to go to America where the roads are paved in mortgages. And you're like, this is my dream. That was your thought process?
No. So I actually had about, my mom and my dad had scraped together about $1,750. That was basically, all the money they had. They gave me the money, and so in my, again, naive world reality, I thought, I was like, I'm going to go to America. I'm going to become an attorney. I'm going to go to law school. Like, I had this whole thing figured out. Like, this is what I'm doing, right? I don't know why. Like, I guess I had just seen like a bunch of American movies, and there was always attorneys, and they just seemed to know their stuff. So I was like, I'm going to become an attorney in America. So I came here, and then, I remember going down to Georgia State and talking to the admissions office, and realizing that, holy crap, like, this money is not going to get me through even a semester of school.
Georgia State University.
Georgia State University. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was just like, I just need to get into a school. And I realized very quickly, like, in my mind, in Europe, like, schooling is paid for. So I was like, I need about $200 a year. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 years of schooling. That's about, I had it all figured out. I really thought I was going to be able to pull it off on my $1,700, but that didn't turn out for me. And so I, it was kind of like a, one of those things, like when you first move to the United States, you may or you may not have, the right kind of visa. And so for the first little while when I was here, like, I had the type of visa where you could not work for a company, but you could have your own company. Right. So very quickly, I was just like, okay, if I'm going to make money, nobody's going to be paying me a salary. Right. I got to figure this thing out on my own really quickly. And so in the beginning, I just did, pretty much, there were all kinds of random things that I did. But I started working with a friend, and we were cleaning houses. It was making about $30 a day. And then I remember thinking, like, well, if I could just start my own cleaning company, I could actually maybe make like $3,000 a month, which was like inconceivable. And then pretty quickly, I recognized that actually I'm actually a fairly good salesperson, because I like talking to people, and I can get people really excited about my ideas. Right, yeah. So then fairly quickly, I started a marketing company where I was doing marketing for IT companies. So
what age was this?
I guess 17-ish, 18,
okay. So
like
pretty apartments for a year or two, then you started a marketing company.
Pretty quickly. Yeah. And so what I would do is I would work with IT companies. Like, I would look in the yellow pages for small IT companies. Like, this is mid 90s, late 90s, the .com stuff, Google is on the scene, all the stuff is happening. And so I would call small IT companies and I would do marketing for them, because generally you would have like 2 or 3 really geeky guys who could not put the sentence together between them, and they had this product that they needed to sell. So I would set up appointments for IT companies. I would literally be like, okay, what kind of software are you guys selling? And they would be like, oh, we have this amazing software for dry cleaners. And, and so I would just open up the yellow pages, call every dry cleaner in whatever city they wanted to be in, and line up appointments. And I'd be like, hey, we've got this great software. Let me get you a meeting with my guys. They'll come in and explain everything. And so they would pay me like per appointment. The moment I set an appointment, I would get paid. And so I was just on the phone, banging out phone calls all day long, which, you know me, I've told this a lot of times, like, if you can get comfortable on the phone, banging out phone calls, you're going to be successful in the real estate business, because the more calls you make, the faster you win.
So you then, how long did you do this? So started at 17. So you're running this marketing company for other people, right? Okay.
Yeah. So it was my own company, and I was just doing
yourself.
and I had like a bunch of contract. Like, I would work for a guy that needed stuff in construction. Like, literally, like, I would just line up accounts, and then as many phone calls as I could make, the more clients I could have. Right. Okay. So I worked multiple people's accounts at the same time. And so then it was a handful of years after, so I got into the mortgage business by the time I was 22, 23 is when I got into the mortgage business. And it kind of happened just randomly because my sister at that point, she had moved to the States. She had like a W-2 job and she was buying a house. And so the person that did her mortgage was from back home. And so at the closing table,
American based, but she was
American based, but yeah, like
I
don't know if he was Serbian, Croatian, Bosnian, one of our people from back home. And so at the closing table, he was like, well, you should get into the mortgage business. You're a great salesperson. You just have to get this, and this license. You're really good at math. Like you can make 20 grand a month being a mortgage broker. I was like, okay, sign me up. Where do I go? And so he was like, well, you just have to find somebody that will train you. So of course I go back to my trusty yellow pages, open up the book, close my eyes and point at the first mortgage company. Yes. So I ended up calling this lady who the name of her company was Mystical Mortgage.
Well, real quick. So this guy didn't want to hire you. He was just saying,
he was like a loan officer. It never even occurred to me to ask him for a job. I was just like, he just gave me a hint and I just started running with it. And so I called her, the lady who was running the mortgage. She was a mortgage broker. Mystical Mortgage.
Mystical Mortgage.
Mystical Mortgage. Okay. Yeah. She had like a little wizard with a hat.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. She may or may not have smoked pot. I don't know if we should maybe edit this out.
I don't see an existing company with that name, so I don't think it's currently in business. So, depending where the story goes,
yeah. So basically, I just called her and I said, "Hey, I'm a great salesperson. I don't know anything about mortgages. I will work for free. Just take me on. I'll do whatever you need me to do." And actually, it was kind of lucky because this woman back in the 90s had her own shop. She used to underwrite. I mean, she used to process, get all of her loans. She literally, her desk was stacked with files. Like she was closing 20 deals a month on her own, pre-automated underwriting, like when you would fax stuff to the bank to get your approval kind of thing. Right. She was actually pretty darn amazing. And I think I really, really lucked out because she totally took me on. She just kept handing me stuff and and I was I'm a super fast learner. So I was like, bring it on. So next thing you know,
20. You're 20 years old doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And I'm just like, I got you. Right. So I learned so much from her. I also learned what not to do because she was super stressed out. She was just like, work-life balance thing was not that great for her, but she was very, very generous. And she really helped me out. And so, so she was a great place to start to learn. And she just had so much business that I, that's one thing that I was just talking to my team about the other day. Like, I feel that like you get to be a really good loan officer if you get to see a lot of scenarios, if you go through a lot of scenarios, right? So that was lucky. She wasn't like nursing along 1 or 2 files a month. Right. She had a bunch of things. And so I was like, let's not do that. Do this, don't do that. And I was talking to my team about this yesterday. Like, I feel like the last couple of years we have upped our game so much because we've closed, 400 or 500 loans a year. So we've almost pushed through 1,000 files in 2 years.
Right.
But to close, 800 or 1,000 loans, you actually have to pre-approve probably about 5,000 people. So in a couple years, we have gone through so many freaking scenarios, right? Like versus like if you're working with a loan officer that does like 1 or 2 deals a month, the last time he looked up that FHA guideline was 3.5 years ago, right?
Yeah. And I think the same applies with real estate agents with the number of transactions. It's the ones you've seen it all. You know how to save a deal. You know where this is going to go south. Let's get ahead of it. So experience, like, you should respect your elders. A lot of people don't respect their elders in the real estate agency side of things because they're old, the fossils, and a lot of times at least adopt to technology. But there is something to be said about the repetitions and anything. But so how long did you work for Mystical Mortgage, cranking those out?
I think I stayed with her for about a year. And then I moved, I applied for a job with another broker. He was, Adrian Skiles. He was like my biggest mentor. He took me on. I worked for him for about 7 years. He was
real quick. So
yeah.
2 questions. What were the interest rates back then? Do you remember?
6 or 7.
Okay.
6 or 7%.
So that's
not too bad.
And then 2, why did you want to leave her to go look for another opportunity?
Yeah. So it was just like, I had my son, and it just like, she was very stressed. She was very stressed out.
How old were you at this point?
I had my son by the time I was 23.
23. Were you married?
No. Mm-mm.
So unmarried,
single mom, with
23.
a really, really good boyfriend. Let's just, I did not do it on my own.
Okay, good. And so, this is a difficult path. Like a lot of people who are like, I've got excuses. And there's parallels between the mortgage business and real estate agents business.
Yeah,
you're working on your own. You're 100% commission based. And there's probably people listening here who maybe, I'm going to pause here. We got plenty more of your story to coverage, who immigrated here and maybe lived for a good portion of their childhood without their parents in a foreign country, didn't speak the language, and then had to do it again, 4 years later in another country without their parents. Hustling, wanting to do what all their peers were doing, going off to college, going to the clubs and nightclubs. And you were like, how can I get a job, a better paying job? I can't get a job. I have to work for myself. And let's pull out the phone book. Let's just cold call and be okay with objections over and over and over again as a marketing company. And then you do the same as a mortgage lender. And you're 20 years old, hustling, helping this woman out. And you're like, and still you weren't just like, and then you had a baby, and then you're like, let's go get another job within the mortgage business. Like, this is just amazing. I know we just sort of skipped over this in 20 minutes. And so there's so much more to unpack. And I know you're the type of person that just wants to skip over these things, but this story is amazing so far if we stop at age 23, that's like a movie. That's a book. That's like you made it in America, and then we still got another 15 years or so to cover for you. So first, congratulations on the first 20 minutes of this story, which really should be an hour, but I know it makes you uncomfortable because it's painful and it was emotional and difficult. These are not easy things, and you gloss over it, but you should really sort of understand that these are proud moments, and people listening. And when I listen, I'm very proud of you as well, which probably doesn't mean much, but it's shocking that there's real hustlers out there, and Jasmine, you're one of them. So now 23, you joined this new mortgage loan officer and a mentor for 7 years. How did that go?
Yeah, so it was really good. So things, the reason I left were, again, things were just not. She taught me a lot, but at the same time, I also needed like a little bit more calm. Like I was having a baby, like I needed things to calm down, things to be a little bit more stable. She was great. So anyway, I move on. I start working for a new broker, and he was very, very solid. Just some of the most important things that I learned working for Adrian, Atlanta Mortgage Group. He's not in business anymore, but was he always had his ethics in the right place. And I think that is like one of the most important kind of like groundwork things that, like, when you are dealing with people's money, with people's homes, with people's security, you cannot fib. You cannot be wishy-washy. You can't say your rate is 2.8 and lock it at 2.9 and hope that they don't notice. Like, so he was one of those foundational blocks in building up my psyche and me to become a really good, strong loan officer, because his ethics they were 100%. Like, if you told somebody that appraisal was going to be $298, when you sit at that closing table, that appraisal better be $298, right? Like that was something that he really taught me. And then in general, just working for him was one of those experiences where he would, I would come to him and I'm like, Adrian, I don't know what to do. They said this and they said that. And he would be like, Jasmine, you don't have enough information to make a good decision. So go back to them and get this, and then we can make a good decision, right? Because I would just go like, oh my God, they went alone and they said they got this rate and what do I do? And he would just like, all right, calm down, get more intel, then we can troubleshoot this. So he really taught me how to be like a super solid, like, just don't be a flake, be really strong and, just build a really good business. And transitioning, I worked for him for a really long time. And that's where I started building up my team, right? So the first recruit was my sister. I don't think she had a choice. But I was like, honey, guess what? I think you need to get into the mortgage business. Right. And because, again, I'm a salesperson and my sister is she's very personable, but she's kind of like the like kind of yin and yang. So she was the organized one. She could look at, spreadsheets. She was always just like the rock solid, kind of, that's why she became my loan processor, because I would go out, I would get all these deals in and I would throw them over my shoulder and she would catch them and she would clean them up and actually make deals and close them. Yeah, right. So we stayed there for about 7 years. And then we moved. That was at this point, things were starting to shift. I could kind of see the writing on the wall. That was coming our way, which was, 2007, 2008. And I quickly got to this place where I realized I have to work for a direct lender versus just a broker. So I don't know how many of you kind of know the difference, but basically a broker, you're using somebody else's money. Right? You're going out and you're sending your file to Chase, you're sending your file to Bank of America, waiting for them to approve it. You're using their money to fund the loans. Versus if you're a direct lender, you have your own underwriters, you have your own money, you fund, you close all of your own deals, and then you sell the servicing off a few months later. And so I could see the writing on the wall, and this brokers, with all the legislation that came through 2008, 2009, all the changes in the mortgage business, for a while there, brokers just got squeezed out. The only way to survive in the business was to be a direct lender or a bank. Right. And so then I shifted to a different company at this point. Quickly, I met my husband, who was a real estate agent.
So with this switch, you are now working for yourself, and this is the formation of Jasmine team?
Yeah, so this is where we started the Jasmine team. Yes, okay. This is where we started. And so then I met my husband, who was in real estate. And so this was, again, tough times, right? We met around 2009, tough times in real estate. Like he was, he would be showing houses, working on deals for, there was a 4-month period where he didn't have a commission because of all the short sales that were not closing.
So this is Jeff Goddard, who was in a previous episode on Agent Upgrade, where he talked about having your wedding list of the sphere of influence.
Yeah.
And some great ideas. So he's a realtor in the 2008, 2009, where no one was making money as a realtor. And then you're a mortgage officer, 2008, 2009, who similar in that you're not a lot of deals that you're.
So, it was different for me. So there was a month, I think it was like November of 2008 was the only month in my entire career where I did not have a commission, because that's when the music kind of stopped, and like our warehouse lines, it's not that I didn't have deals, our warehouse lines just shrank, and we didn't have, like I had loans that were locked, but we couldn't fund them because our warehouse lines went away.
So warehouse lines is the funnel of money to pays for all these mortgages.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but then I pretty quickly figured out a way, like once the money started flowing, interest rates got low. And this is where I got in with Zillow. I think it was 2009-ish, that when Zillow was still really, really new on the scene, especially on the lending side of things. And there was a feature where, as a lender, you could quote people rates. So somebody would say, I'm looking for a $400,000 refi. And I would sit there and bang out an estimate, right? And email it to that person through Zillow. And so, on one side, Jeff is working really, really hard And on the other side, I am starting to have more business than I can close. Like I'm to a point where I'm like, I can only send out 2 Zillow estimates a day because I'm getting 2 deals a day. I cannot close this many loans on my own. And so Jeff is, he's got an MBA. He's a very smart finance, again, spreadsheet kind of guy. And he looked at me and he was like, honey, I think that we should not be turning off your marketing. I think we should actually hire people to help you close more loans. And I was like, oh my God, that's inconceivable. What do you mean? So pretty quickly, he started helping me just keep growing this thing. We started doing online quotes. And this was before all the big banks got in on it. So we closed, like in 2010, we had closed like 460 deals.
And who was your team at this point? You, Jeff?
So it was me and Jeff and my sister, who's stuck with me this whole time.
She's still with you, yes.
Yeah, and then we started hiring processors. What processor, second processor, a third processor, and then we just, I would be on the phone with clients, getting the deals in, quoting them rates, and I would throw it over my shoulder, and one of the girls would grab it and take it and start to finish all the way through closing. And so that's how we started growing our team. And I don't have a giant team even now. And I feel like we're kind of in this happy place where, where we have somewhere between 8 to 10 people on the team, give or take, depending on how the volume is and whether people are having babies and coming in and out or not.
Right.
But yeah, so we've been, now at this point, we've had a really good team. We've closed, every year we've pretty much closed more loans. I think this year we're at around, last year we were over 100 million. This year we're at around 125. Hopefully we'll keep doing that next year as well.
Keep winning awards.
Yeah.
What awards you've won. Yeah. Well, congrats again. So you've taken something where you're the second half of your story. It's very inspiring. Like you just kept growing and hiring and you still are living your life and getting married and so it's awesome to hear that you can accomplish all these things without sacrificing a work-life balance. And
For
you
sure.
talk about that a lot, and it shows that you live it as well.
Yeah.
And so I remember the first time I met you, I just gotten my license and didn't know what I was doing. And this was probably 6 or 7 years ago. I was a real estate investor, but everyone kept asking me real estate questions. So I was like, I'll get my real estate agent license so I can help these guys. Reluctantly became a realtor. And I think it was like the first time I ever had a client, and they're like, hey, let's go look at homes this weekend. I was like, all right, great. All right. This is my first time taking out a client this weekend. And I get an email on a Friday from you randomly. I don't know how you got my email, but I think you probably were just emailing every real estate agent who you're at.
Yeah. That's how that's how I met my husband as well. I had my list of my local 400 realtors, and I would just email them about my loan programs and about all my stuff. Yeah. So my email list has done me good over the years.
Yeah. And so the email came in. Hey, just want to let you know if it's a great weekend for showing homes, weather-wise or something like that. And if you need a pre-qualification, I'm working over the weekend. So let me know if you need a pre-qualification letter to write any offers. Good luck out there or something like that. And I was like, oh, that never crossed my mind that I may, one, need a pre-qualification letter. Like no one told me that. And two, I hope we make an offer this weekend. And so I was like, okay, well, now I've got a mortgage lender. That's good. I didn't know I needed one, but now I do. And of course, that weekend, my client wanted to make an offer on something. I was like, okay, well, I know what you got to do. You got to reach out to Jasmine to get a pre-qualification letter. And in my mind, I was selling it like, of course, this is the next step, not realizing that probably should have been the first step before we go look at homes, or definitely it should have been the first step. And so you were right. You were working that weekend and you got a pre-qualification letter. We were able to make an offer and it went under contract, and it went really smoothly. And then I think you and Jeff treated me to lunch and be like, hey, congratulations. You just got your license, I see. And we sort of built a relationship that way. And I fumbled through a few other deals after that, not realizing that, the benefits of using you and your customer service and your ability to close, because I would have agents that would say, oh, I've got this great rate from Quicken Loans or something similar at the time. I forget what it's called. But these discount brokerages, big banks, national chains. And I didn't know anything. I wouldn't talk my clients out of it. Oh, you got a pre-approval letter already? Okay, let's go make some homes. And then those deals I found they were delayed. Appraisals were coming in late, not hitting the appraisal deadline. We constantly were moving the closing. And I realized this was, one, very stressful for me. It was also very stressful for my client. And I kept feeling like, wow, this reflected on me. I'm a bad agent. Like as a bad agent, I missed these deadlines. Why did I not do that? I'm a bad agent. We have to move the closing. Everyone's got to reshuffle their movers. This is already a stressful experience. And then I realized it's the lenders. These lenders are not like the first one I did with Jasmine was so smooth and there's so much communication. And these lenders kept making me look bad. And then finally, I got to the point where I was like, okay, I can only use Jasmine. I can only have my clients use Jasmine. And so I would give them that spiel. I said, listen, this is my experience with these lenders, and this is what happens. And this is my experience with Jasmine, and this is what happens. Typically, she can match some of these other rates that you're getting. But if not, you're going to spend money extending rate locks. You're going to spend money on movers, rescheduling movers and losing your deposit. You're going to spend like all this money and you're going to be yelling at me for being a terrible agent for not preventing this. And once you sort of lay out their future, it's quite easy. And then everyone started using you, and I would get so much raving feedback. Oh, Jasmine's great. She's awesome. She was always on it. And then instead of looking like a bad agent, you kept making me look like a great agent. And I was like, why would I not keep coming back to Jasmine team? Like you just kept making me look better and better and better. And deals were closing on time. I didn't have to worry about the appraisals coming back in time. Like none of that ever crossed my mind anymore. And I could just focus on sales and helping the client. So, 8 years later, I think, not 8 years. Have I been doing this for 8 years? No, I've been doing this
22.
As this airs, it'll probably be 8 years that I'm an agent, and you've helped grow my business tremendously. So thank you for that. For making me look good, and I credit majority of my success for you getting deals done, me not knowing what I'm talking about, and you correcting it and getting the client to agree, or change their mind, even though I told them something different. But you made me look good, even by telling them what I was wrong.
I love it. Well, I think that there is a lot to be said for that because, I find that a lot of real estate agents still do the whole, I'm going to hand out 3 names. And I get it. It's like, I'm sure that there is some rule why people do it, because everybody seems to always say like, well, I'm going to put you on my list of lenders that I hand out. And I honestly feel that you should have your go-to lender. Like you should have your number one person, because for us, anytime we get a referral from Alan, everything stops. Alan is always like our number one client. Right. And so if Alan could text me at 11:59 p.m. and say, I need a pre-approval in the next 14 minutes. And I'd be like, all right, Alan, let me get up and do this for you. Right. So there is the relationship you build with your lender. You can just have that much more pull if you don't give out deals to a bunch of different people. And then you have onesie twosies and they kind of like you, but there is all these other deals. Like, you have to have like this really strong relationship between you and your lender. Like I have my realtors come over to my house for dinner, right? Like that is the type of relationship that we have. We're really tight. We're friends, and we're also in business together. So if somebody needs something from me, this is somebody that I've probably worked with for several years, and there is just a level of trust. And if I tell you, Alan, this is going to be a little bit tough, but we're going to pull it off, you're not breathing down my neck. You're like, Jasmine's got it. I know it's going to be a little bit rocky, but we're going to get where we need to get. Right. And so you need to have that kind of trust with your lender, because if you're just using, whether it's Quicken or who, I'm not trying to, make a, not anti-Quicken here, but I'm just saying, like, if it's somebody that you don't have the ability to build that personal trust with, how do you know if that lender that's saying they're pre-approved, they maybe just pulled their credit. Maybe they have no clue whether they're, W-2 employed or self-employed. Nobody's looked at their tax returns. Nobody realized that there is a $50,000 IRS lien, right? You've got to get really tight pre-approvals from your lenders. And unless you know the person that you're working with really well, I just don't think that the trust is there.
Right. And so first of all, you're telling me that, Alan's a VIP client, but I felt that way on my very first deal when you're responding to me on a weekend. Like, every agent that I use or that I've talked to that uses you says the same thing. Like, oh no, I'm Jasmine's VIP client. It's like, how many VIP clients does she have? Because everyone feels like you're the VIP client. And also because you have such a great reputation, at least in Atlanta, and now this is growing nationwide, that you have a reputation nationally for closing deals and standing by your word, that like I tell my clients, hey, if we're in a bidding war and you have a pre-approval mortgage from Jasmine team, we're going to win the bidding war, because that looks so much better than any of these other discount brokerages or brokerages where people have never, used that person before, or ever heard that name before. And I know when someone's offering on one of my properties and they have a pre-approval letter from you, that it's as good as cash. Like I would accept that offer over a cash offer if it's higher, because I know that a pre-approval from you means something. It's not just let's fill out a few forms on the internet and boom, here's a pre-approval letter. It actually, you've done some background research and I know it's going to close. And so that's won me so many bidding wars against cash offers as well, on both sides. So you do a really, that's your secret sauce, is you're doing things different than other mortgage lenders.
Yeah. And I feel that if you have to have that kind of you have to, I think that there is, as the longer you are in the business, it's like one client and another client, and it just kind of, some people tend to get a little transaction-y, if you will, right? It's just another transaction. You're kind of going through it. But I feel that, that you can have a really meaningful life, but by creating really strong relationships in your business, right? So I think that if you just take the time and just when you refer, I feel like when you refer us to your clients, I feel like you genuinely feel that your clients are going to be better off because they had us as their lender. And you have to have that kind of trust in the lender that you're working with, that you feel like genuinely my clients are better off working with Jasmine than working with any of these other people. Even if the rate is an eighth of a point this way or that way, this is genuinely better for you.
Right. Yeah. And we also, I think, in a previous episode, we talked about having your number one recommendation across all your team. Like I have my number one closing attorney, my number one contractor, my number one, and all these people are reflections of me. Like if I'm giving a referral to a client, that referral better be good, because otherwise, again, it makes me look like a terrible real estate agent. If I give you a plumber and the plumber shows up and does a terrible job and doesn't clean up and overcharges you, they'll be like, Alan is not good at his job, and so the lender is such it's the major component to getting a house,
huge,
right?
Huge. Yeah. And it's really important that you have a lender that knows what's up. Like I was saying, even for us over the last couple of years, we have really, really been able to step up our game just because of the sheer number of transactions that we're pushing through. We're learning so much. And these guidelines are like at the tip of our tongue. Like we just know this stuff all, offhand. And I think having a really good team in place, because like if you're, I couldn't help that many clients unless I had an amazing team that was backing me. And so I think that's, going back to your life work balance, I think eventually we all get to a place where we have to build out a team. You can't be everything to everyone, but you can try and do the most important things that only you can do on your team, right? And so for us, I have my sister is our closing manager, so she manages everything from the time we get a clear to close through the end, and so she's really, really good at that the very end scramble, right? And then I've got a processor / underwriter on our team, and she's really good at the paperwork. And then I've got the girls up front who are just really good at the pre-approval stuff, so I don't have to worry about these different parts of the process. All I do is I have the initial pre-approval calls with our clients. When they come in, we come up with a really, really good tight plan on how we're going to get them into a home. And then, I help them strategize once it's time to get the rate locked in. And so I think as you start growing and as a real estate agent as well, you're going to have to add team members, and, investing money and time into building a really, really good team is really incredible. Sometimes I hear of people like, oh, we have this person and on our team, and we're not, they're relatively inexpensive salary wise. I definitely feel like you get what you pay for. You've got to hire rock stars. For us, it's like, if you want to be on our team, it's like, it's like the MBA of, of mortgages. Right. Like, you got to be a freaking rock star if you're going to be on our team. Because it's our reputation. Like, it's, even if it's just one deal that goes south, that's like that, like, that's my reputation. Like, that's my name on the line, and we got to do a really, really good job. And another thing we started doing is, about a year ago or so, we started doing, just asking for reviews from every single client. And that was a really scary thing to start doing. And I know a lot of real estate agents are kind of struggling with that, when to ask for reviews. We just made it a rule where every single transaction that closes, we send out a text, we send out an email with a link to the reviews. And that has really kept us on our toes because we know every deal is going to be broadcast out into the world. And so that's a really good way to keep yourself and your team accountable as well, is just to always ask every single client for a review.
I agree with that. Because to me, I prefer honest feedback. I get more out of people giving me negative reviews than people giving me positive reviews, because I expect positivity, and then I really want to know when I drop the ball. And I don't know if I've shared this story before, but possibly I have. We had a local home inspector here who I stopped using, and he called me, wanted to know why, and I gave him negative feedback, and I was like, listen, these are the reasons why. And he loved it. He's like, this. No one ever tells me the bad stuff. Everyone just says good job and stops using me.
We've had those moments. Yeah. We've had those moments as well.
So I took that to heart, and then I started giving negative feedback to everyone, and not everyone has that reaction. Not everyone is like, thank you for the negative feedback. A lot of people, are like, take it poorly. So I'm learning and picking and choosing and trying to learn when to bite my tongue at certain times. But it always is coming from a good place, because I'm like, I'm giving you negative feedback because I want you to get better, and I want to use you. I
love it. I love it because I always worry that, like, was there something that happened on this transaction that I didn't know, or were the clients feeling a certain way about, like, oh, this paperwork that they have to provide, or did they, like, I worry that my clients are going to tell their real estate agent something different than they're telling me. And so that's why I always really appreciate the feedback that I get from my real estate agents, because I feel like maybe the clients are just a little bit, they have a tighter relationship, right? I'm the lender, but I'm not in the car with them for 4 months straight driving around. Like, so they have a tighter relationship. So whenever we get, especially any of the feedback we got from you over the years, which I love, because I really feel like iron sharpens iron. Like, it's like, hey, your system is working, but this sucked. Like, everything stops. Like, we're fixing this, whatever this is, this cannot happen ever again. Right. And so you just, and I think that's part of running a really good business in real estate in general, is just learning from your mistakes. And it's not, having a good team is not like a diploma that you get and you hang up on your wall. It's not like that all of a sudden I've got a perfect team. Like nobody move.
Yeah, right.
It's people, like they're having a good day, they're having a bad day, they're having kids, they're changing jobs, like things happen. So I feel like a huge part of my work is just always being the visionary for where we're going. And then just, we're always optimizing the systems, always making it better. You know, that's how you stay relevant, right? What worked 5 years ago, it doesn't work right now. So you've got to stay on the cutting edge, on the leading edge, you know, and just staying relevant and making your real estate agents look good is one of our really top priorities for us here.
Well, I think staying relevant is an important message to reiterate, because I remember I went to college for computers, computer science, sort of programming, and this was like when the internet was born. Mastered HTML, and then I graduated. It's like, oh, we all use JavaScript now. I was like, oh, I just mastered HTML. Okay, so let me master JavaScript, and it's like, okay, now we're using PHP. I'm like, what? I just learned this skill. Now it's obsolete or whatever. It's not the hot new thing. And it was like every year I had to learn a new skill, and I'm like, this is not the job for me. I just want to learn a skill and ride the wave. And so in some ways I kind of liked real estate because it's like the purchasing and flipping a home that doesn't really change so much. But when I became a realtor, I was like, oh, of course, it's just I just got to learn the Zillow leads and never have to do anything else or whatever it is. And I'm realizing, no, in real estate brokerage business, it's similar to your story in mortgages. You're constantly relearning. You know, it may be Facebook today, it may be Instagram, and then TikTok, and then Telegram, and then Clubhouse, and Zillow's back. And no, Zillow's not. Now there's a new thing that people are using, and you constantly have to be pushing yourself, learning new things. It doesn't go away. Marketing is always recreating yourself and riding the newest wave. So I think that's important to learn that, you know, what's working for you now, ride it and use it, but understand you're going to use it up and people aren't going to come back to you because of your postcards, you know, anymore. Like that might've worked for 6 years, but you're going to, if you really analyze it, is it still working for you and trying new things? So that's an important message.
Change is uncomfortable. Like we're in the middle of changing over to a new CRM. We've used the same CRM for 12 years. And, you know, we're all just bracing ourselves, you know, but it's like, you know, in order to stay relevant, in order to create, you know, we kind of like this idea of having like this curated mortgage experience, right? And in order for that to stay true, we cannot have the same graphics that we had, you know, 7 years ago, or the same technology that we were using 7 years ago. Like, you know, people need to be able to grab their pre-approval letters on the go, as opposed to like emailing me to get a pre-approval letter. Like those things, you've got to do things to stay relevant. The loan application has to be faster and easier, and you got to stay with it. Even to, you know, I think the mortgage business traditionally, you know, we lag. We're like, you know, 20, 30 years behind maybe on technology, and some of the software still looks like it's not out of 1980s. If you get into the back end of how the mortgage business works, it's like, that interface has not changed since 1930.
This is actually a good segue to what we're working on now, and I'm putting together, and it's not where I originally was going with the question, but like yesterday I launched a Discord server, the House of AC, which is sort of my website where people can read my books or learn about real estate investing. And now it's branching out to sort of agent upgrade, being in the umbrella of that. All my kids are constantly on Discord server. And I'm like, you know, what is a Discord server? It's where they log on, all their friends there, they can chat with them, they can put on their headsets, talk to them, they can do a video instantly. But basically he plays video games, or my boys play video games, and they can see their friends or talk to their friends through this Discord channel. And if you talk to anyone who has kids, maybe between the ages of 8 to 15, they're probably 8 to 25. 19.
Yeah, my 19-year-old is on Discord for sure.
They're all on Discord, and so I was like, I'm old. I'm 43. I don't understand Discord. It's a new technology. I find it very frustrating at times because what's natural to my 11-year-old is not natural to me. But I'm learning, and I'm like, wait a minute. There's no, you know, real estate talk happening here. I found 1 or 2 channels that had some real estate stuff. There's absolutely no mortgage talk happening in here. But this generation is going to want to buy a house one day, and they're going to want real estate advice someday. And if they're on Discord, I want to be on Discord. So if you're listening to this, join the House of AC Discord. It's brand new. We'll learn it together. And I have channels to talk about for real estate investors. I have channels for real estate agents. I'm going to put every single episode of Agent Upgrade on there so we can all go on Discord, learn Discord together, and discuss the episodes.
Stay relevant.
Yes. And I have a financing channel there. So if you have lending questions, Jasmine and her team will be in there. What I find is all these different Discord communities, they're also very helpful. Like I'm learning new things, and it's just, hey, I have this question. Oh, let me help. Like it's a community. You're basically in a neighborhood, and everyone's helping each other. It's a village, raising a village of educating each other. People have different knowledge that they're sharing, and so I want to create that. I've got 2 members now in my Discord as we record this. So by the time this airs, yes, hopefully we can grow this thing and learn new technology together. And look for the House of AC Discord.
I think it should be 4 members because I think Sadia and Jeff are probably on Discord. So there's 4 of us.
Our significant others. We'll start there. And hopefully our fans, Agent Upgrade fans, and people listening to this. And we're also learning, we're going to start streaming these shows too. So we've been taught to use this new software if we're recording a podcast, let's stream it live. So we're going to start going down. I'm so excited about what we're going to accomplish in 2022 because I'm out of my comfort zone in everything. We're going to be streaming. I haven't done that. I've started social media channels. We've got a great person, Jasmine Radler, who's now on my team to help us push some social media stuff. I'm learning all these things because I feel like I'm becoming out of touch, and my clients are becoming younger, and it's not easy, but to me, I'm excited. Let's see where this goes. I'm going to stumble. Some things aren't going to work out in these sort of new ventures, and that's okay. That's business. Every business that goes through these things. So,
and I think that's key, though. That's key because I feel a lot of people get frozen in place because either they find something that works and then they get like super, super protective of it. It's like, this is my secret sauce and I'm going to guard it with my life. But meanwhile, you're becoming irrelevant. There is certain, there are certain coaching programs that are like, oh, you've got to pound the phones and do this and do that and blah, 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 blah. Like, yes, okay, that was really cool back in 1990s, but like we gotta keep moving. We gotta keep evolving. And if you're not growing, you're stagnating, right? And so you've got to keep putting yourself out of your comfort zone. And fear is a big part of being outside of your comfort zone, but if you just don't make such a big deal out of it, just say, I'm going to do it anyway. Yes, I'm freaked out. I'm going to do it anyway. That's how you stay in the mode of growth and you're expanding your business and you're not going to get left behind because like, oh, there's like all these iBuyer programs, blah, 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 blah. Like, how do you stay relevant in that? How do you not be like, the old school realtor who just opens doors? Like you've got to keep an eye on the technology, like all the fintech companies, all that. There is a lot of disruption that's going to come, but you can either be in on it and just take the next logical step and keep growing with it, or you can just get stagnant and frozen in place and be like, hey, this is how I've always done it. I've been in business for 20 years. This is who I am. Right. So yeah, I think it's important to just keep going with it. So and this is what I love the most about being in business. I love being excited about, new ideas, new ventures. I'm like, yes, that's what I love to wake up. I mean, there's days, like I'll wake up at 5 a.m. I'm like pacing the hallway back and forth. Cause I just had a brilliant idea. Like I can't wait for my husband to wake up. And I'm like, can I text Alan? Is he up yet? But I think that's how we stay excited and things, and I think that's really that's what makes a successful business person, I think, is just being inspired and excited about what you're doing, waking up and you don't feel like you're going to work, you're working on an exciting project. And that's, I don't feel like I want to retire, like I'm not, hopefully by the time I hit 60 or 70, I'm still going to be just as excited because there's going to be some new thing that I'm tinkering with. And I'm not really worried about that whole, like, how am I going to retire? When am I going to retire? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm having fun. This is awesome.
Yeah. If you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work, and then you don't want to retire. But like you're not in it for the awards, obviously, but you keep winning them. You're not in it for the numbers and the money. You're in it for helping families and helping others and giving back, and true inspiration. So thank you for sharing your story, even though that was also out of your comfort zone, Jasmine.
Yes. Thank you for pushing me, Alan.
Just, we had to reschedule this about 7 times. You had a great excuse to not talk about yourself.
Every time.
Yes. Yeah. So finally, thanks for joining the hot seat here and sharing your story. And I think it's great for our audience to understand you a little bit more and where you're coming from and your backstory and how hard you work. And sometimes, you should pat yourself on the back. You're probably one of those people that don't do that enough. So, thanks so much for sharing your story and also being my co-host. You're inspiration to me and many others. So thank you very much, Jasmine.
I love it. Well, I'm here for you guys as we start building our community. Alan and I, we're here just to help everybody grow. And what I love about our show is that we're not trying to sell you anything. We're not trying to get you to invest money with us or mortgages or whatever. We just do this because we want to share. We want to help our listeners grow their business and get in on the fun with us.
Right. Yeah. And so look at all of our social media channels to get our Discord, and we're going to try to push that in the new year as well. So again, that's not selling you anything. It's building a community. We want that water cooler of people coming and talking about whatever real estate related stuff is interesting to you or questions you may have. So I hope to meet some of our fans as well. If we have any fans, we've had one fan letter. So thank you to Megan for that one. Megan Kaiser,
our one and only fan.
Our first fan and our first fan mail. So I know she listens to these episodes. So thank you, Megan. And we'll keep going. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Jasmine.
Thanks. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Agent Upgrade Podcast. If you are an agent looking for a new mortgage lender, start with Jasmine at jasmineteam.com. If you want to learn about real estate investing and working with investors, check in with Alan at thehouseofac.com. See you next time on Agent Upgrade.